I've heard artists talk about they found themselves. I never want to find myself, you know. It's more fun to just kind of innovate. I am Peter Reginato, and I am an artist. I really was known as a sculptor. And I realized that I really do have a touch for painting, you know. I remember one day it was either second grade or third grade. You wet a piece of paper and you stuck it to the blackboard, and with chalk, you would draw something. And I was like, you know, what am I going to draw? I'm going to draw a willow tree. I know what a willow tree looks like. So I drew this willow tree, and it looked just like a willow tree. You know, at some point, I just had a natural affinity to drawing. I got a scholarship out of high school to go to any school in the Bay Area that were great art schools. I was working more out of like School of Paris, Picasso, Matisse, Van Gogh, particularly those three. But the question was, even then, was like, well, how do you make a living as an artist? I thought I was a hotshot in high school, right? I get to the Art Institute and I realize I don't know anything. I mean, I'm like, wow, really humbled by what's going on there, you know? While I'm still going to school at the Art Institute, I progressively started making sculpture. My first work was very heavy. If anything, it looked like a Henry Moore or something, kind of these biomorphic fat forms. But I wasn't interested in doing the symbolism anymore and the more surrealist aspect. I wanted to do a much pure art. Made about 4 or 5 pieces that way, and I realized everybody was doing that. Back in the summer of '67, when I said, okay, I'm going to do something asymmetrical, boy, did that door become a huge door to go through. You know, next thing I know, yeah, everything's possible. I started making these pieces, and then right away they started looking like a figure, which was like, oh, crap, you know. I don't want them to look like a figure. I want them to be abstract. What was interesting, though, was as I would try to destroy the figurative part of them, I realized when they looked like a figure, they looked their best. So I stopped fighting it. Once I shook the minimalist thing, and I started really getting into what I'm about as a sculptor, by the time, say, 85, 86, I was selling out shows. I've had this studio for 57 years. Literally, the minute I came to New York, got out of my truck, I moved in here. It was a real education being in New York, particularly those first years. You know, I was going around looking at shows at the museums or a permanent collection. At some point, I got more serious about the painting, you know, and the painting of the sculpture. And what happened was I was painting some paintings in acrylic, and they were pretty good. But the paint was drying too fast for me at that point, and I didn't want to be there. So I kind of dropped it for a little bit, but the painting kind of forced me into this place. The key to this new work, and it came out of the drawings, was I put the background, well, you call it background, it also kind of played with foreground, background ambiguity. And I started making these drawings, and I realized that this was doing something that my other drawings weren't doing, and this was important. The next thing I know, I'm going, I can make paintings. And what I started seeing was I was letting the background come through in various areas, and in some areas I wasn't. I'm actually picking up on the Pollocks that he started using the brush again, along with throwing the paint, and started mixing the two together. And one painting in particular, Easter and the Totem. The pink and the blue, a little bit of a cliche, but they look great together. The first thing you see is color. Then the drawing. I'm trying to draw in it in some way that is convincing. Color is a really big, important thing to me, as much as I love doing black and white paintings. If I'm enjoying looking at it, you know, I'm hoping other people will too. There is a youthfulness in the work, you know. It's not stodgy. I mean, there's something very happy about it. We don't really talk about joy as serious, but it is, Every aspect of painting, it's like the shape of the canvas, the scale, surface. You start painting and you get, say, texture. Do you want that texture? Or did you want it to all be really smooth? And what happens if you, say, make a painting that isn't what you want? And how do you relate to it? Boy, making art is such a humbling experience because you fail. You fail all the time. You think you got it figured out and you don't. Artists are problem solvers. That's what we're good at. No matter what kind of art it is. You start doing something, you create a problem, And sometimes we purposely make problems so we can solve them. And sort of paint our way out, Now, some things you like, some things you don't like, some things maybe influence you in a way that, and some things you don't do, But the key is those rules that you make for yourself are your rules that you made up. And you may break your own rules.